When the human genome, or genetic blueprint, was mapped in 2003, scientists hoped the information would revolutionise the treatment of incurable diseases. What many didn't expect was that genetic sequences would be patented, just like inventions such as the Hills hoist or the Victor lawnmower. As genetic technology becomes an increasingly important aspect of modern medicine, a Senate inquiry is looking into the looming clash between private property and public interest. Thea de Chaos reports.
Have some more tea? Thank you. The kids came dressed in their...
When Lynn Race was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 33, she wasn't the only one devastated by the news.
I just almost went into meltdown. It was just horrendous, and I actually said to her at the time, if I could have it for you, I would, because it wasn't fair.
Those words were to prove sadly prophetic 25 years later, when older sister Jill Regness was also diagnosed with the disease.
I thought, this isn't fair, this shouldn't be happening to Jill as well.
Doctors recommended a review of their family history and found breast cancer going back 2 generations. Thanks to recent advances in genetic medicine, the search began for DNA flaws which could provide crucial information for their daughters and granddaughters.
These 2 genes, BRCA1 and BRCA2, have been found to be very important in the control of cell growth and DNA repair in the breast and the ovary.
We are now in the midst of a genetic revolution. There are literally thousands of genes that have now been identified which have significant effect and impact on human health and disease.
But the process soon hit an unforeseen snag when clinicians realised that an American company called Myriad held the patent on the genes. It had granted an exclusive licence covering Australia and New Zealand to a Melbourne company called Genetic Technologies. Last year, Genetic Technologies threatened legal action against the Peter MacCallum Cancer Institute unless it stopped performing the diagnostic test for the 2 crucial genes.
It potentially could have been very problematic for us. I'm not sure whether we could have continued with a public laboratory, which is underpinned because of the volume of genetic testing we do for the BRCA genes.
It dramatically brought to everyone's attention in the health field and the scientific field that they could no longer afford to simply be complacent and ignore the legal reality.
Genetic Technologies eventually backed down, but not before causing significant anxiety to doctors in the public health system.
I would imagine that if a monopoly occurred over such testing, the prices would rise and there'd be loss of those specimens for future testing and even research.
The company declined the 7:30 Report's request for an interview.
This is a wake-up call to everybody on the planet to give consideration to who owns what's in your body. Why then do you not find any basis in law on page 3 of your submission for refusing
the right to
give
own
monopolies
and
to
test genetic material critical to diagnosing diseases like breast cancer is now the subject of a Senate inquiry.
This is about the cost of providing care to the human race and making sure that it just doesn't become some sort of next river of gold.
People own their own genes. They can't give ownership away of their own genes. So that really is not at risk. What is under discussion here is the intellectual property system and how it has developed over the last 25 years.
The biotechnology industry says gene patents are one way for companies or researchers to protect the investment they make and exploit it for commercial gain.
The only way the community is going to access these modern drugs and modern diagnostics is through commercialisation process. It will not occur without company investment.
Because there's no internationally recognised definition.
Around the world, thousands of human gene patents have been granted. In Australia, they've been granted by IP Australia since 1990, and they usually last for 20 years.
An isolated gene sequence that has a specific use identified, such as a diagnostic or a therapeutic, satisfies the definition of invention and may be patentable provided it satisfies all the other patentability criteria.
But others argue genetic material is a discovery, not an invention, and therefore shouldn't be patented.
It is absolute nonsense to consider that the gene could be patented. It's a naturally occurring substance. It would make as much sense to patent a gene as it does to patent the moon.
DNA is the essence of who we are. It really is just a wonder of nature. In itself, it's not an invention.
Doctors working in the public health system are worried that gene patents and the licence fees they generate will in the future place a huge financial burden on the public purse.
We might find ourselves priced out of being able to use this effective treatment or this effective information.
If we get this wrong, there is the potential that commercial entities will control the access to genetic testing that is necessary for the delivery of good health care in Australia.
But the biotechnology industry warns any attempt to exclude human genes from the patent process will jeopardise research in Australia and may result in huge compensation claims.
The inconvenient truth is that many patents have been awarded and they are live and they are being worked on around the world, and for Australia to stand alone, separate to everybody else, is difficult to see how we could do that and do it without risk.
So we went and bought the material for the Barbie doll and all.
For sisters Lynn Race and Jill Regness, the current genetic test was unable to locate a fault in their BRCA1 and 2 genes. But they fear access to future scientific advances may be jeopardised if the issue of patents is not resolved.
I think it's the whole testing thing is really important for everybody out there. There must be many, many other women in the same situation as ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
And there will be down the track.
And it's not only breast cancer, it's all the other things that are being genetically tested.
It's not going to go away, is it?
No.